When my grandson closed the door and whispered, Grandma, I need to tell you something, my heart stopped. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Ethan said them, careful, heavy, like he had been carrying something alone for too long. That afternoon had started like any other. The sun was warm over our quiet street in Ohio, and the breeze moved gently through the maple trees in the yard. I was in the kitchen, finishing up a batch of chocolate chip cookies, Ethan's favorite, when I heard the front door open. Grandma, he called. In here, sweetheart, I replied, wiping my hands on a towel. He walked in slower than usual, backpack still hanging off one shoulder. At 16, Ethan was growing into someone taller, quieter, more thoughtful than the boy who used to run through this house laughing. But that day, something felt different. He didn't go straight to the cookies. He didn't drop his bag or talk about school. He just stood there. You okay? I asked, studying his face. He nodded quickly. Yeah, I'm fine. But he wasn't. I could see it in his eyes, restless, unsure, like he was trying to decide something. Sit, I said gently, placing a cookie in front of him. You look like you've got a lot on your mind. He sat down, but he didn't eat. Instead, he stared at his hands, fingers twisting together. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The quiet between us wasn't uncomfortable, it was familiar. Ethan had always come to me when something was bothering him, ever since he was little. After his parents' divorce, this house became his safe place. No shouting, no tension, just space to breathe. I saw your mom this morning, I said softly, trying to ease him in. She looked tired. Ethan let out a small breath. Yeah, she's been working a lot, I nodded. That had been the story for years now. My daughter, Lisa, had done her best raising Ethan on her own, but life hadn't been easy. Long shifts at the hospital, bills piling up, trying to stay strong even when she was exhausted. Ethan never complained, but I knew he felt it. Is it about school? I asked. He shook his head. Friends? Another shake. That's when I knew this was something deeper. Ethan looked up at me, and for a second I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who would run to me with scraped knees or broken toys, trusting I could fix it. Grandma! He started, then stopped. It's okay, I said. You can tell me anything. He hesitated, then stood up suddenly and walked to the door. He closed it quietly, then turned the lock. That's when my heart skipped. Ethan never did that, not here, not with me. He turned back slowly, his face serious now, almost pale. Grandma, I need to tell you something, he said in a low voice, and just like that the room felt smaller. I set the towel down and gave him my full attention. All right, I said gently. I'm listening. He walked back to the table, but he didn't sit this time. He stood there, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly tense. I've been thinking a lot lately, he said. About what? Everything, he replied, letting out a small nervous laugh. School, life, people. I smiled softly. That's normal, you're figuring things out. Yeah, but this feels different. There it was again, that weight in his voice. I leaned forward slightly. Different how? Ethan looked at me for a long moment, like he was searching for the right words, or maybe the courage to say them. I don't know how to explain it, he admitted. Start anywhere, I said. There's no rush. He nodded, then finally pulled out a chair and sat down across from me. His fingers tapped lightly against the table, a habit he had when he was nervous. You remember when you told me about Grandpa? He asked suddenly. My chest tightened a little at the mention of my late husband. Of course. How you said when you met him you just knew? I smiled faintly. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but there was something there, something real. Ethan nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something in his mind. I think I understand that now, he said quietly. I felt a shift in the air. This wasn't about school or stress or anything ordinary. This was about something bigger, something that had found its way into his young heart and changed him. I watched him carefully, noticing the mix of fear and hope in his expression. You don't have to be afraid of what you feel, I told him. He swallowed hard. I'm not afraid of the feeling. I'm afraid of what it means. That line stayed with me, because I had lived long enough to know love can be beautiful, but it can also be complicated. It can bring people together, but it can also test everything they know. And Ethan, he was standing right at the edge of that. You're not alone, I said softly. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. He looked at me then, really looked like he needed to be sure I meant it. I didn't tell Mom, he admitted. I didn't know how. That's okay, I said. Sometimes it's easier to start here. He nodded again, a little more steady this time. The afternoon light streamed through the window, casting soft shadows across the table. The cookies sat untouched between us, forgotten. Ethan took a deep breath, and in that moment I knew, whatever he was about to say, it mattered, not just to him but to all of us, because some truths don't just change one life, they ripple outward, touching everyone connected to them. And as I sat there looking at my grandson, I realized something else. He wasn't a child anymore. He was stepping into something new, something uncertain, and he had chosen me to hear it first. That alone filled me with pride, but it also made my heart ache, because I knew, whatever came next, there was no going back. I think I'm in love, Ethan said, his voice shaking just enough to make the words feel fragile. For a second, the world seemed to pause around us. The quiet kitchen, the soft light through the window, even the ticking clock on the wall. Everything faded except him. I didn't answer right away, not because I was shocked, not because I didn't understand, but because I could see how much it took for him to say it. At 16, those words carry a weight that feels bigger than anything else. First love isn't just a feeling. It's a storm, a question, a risk. I smiled slowly, letting warmth reach my eyes. That's a big thing to say, I replied gently. Ethan let out a breath he had been holding. Yeah, it is. There was a pause. Softer this time, not tense, just careful. Do you want to tell me about her? I asked. Ethan hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I didn't push. I had learned long ago that people open up in their own time, especially when it comes to love. She's different, he said finally. I nodded. Different can be good. He gave a small, nervous smile. That's what I think, too. The way his face changed when he talked about her, it reminded me of something I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. Real, unguarded hope. What's her name? I asked. Ethan looked down at his hands again. His fingers tightened slightly, like he was holding on to something invisible. Her name is Maya, he said quietly. I let the name settle in the air between us. Maya, I repeated with a soft smile. That's a beautiful name. He nodded, but the tension didn't leave his shoulders. Where did you meet her? I continued. At school, he said. She moved here a few months ago. We have the same history class. And you've been talking since then? Yeah. At first it was just small stuff, homework, projects. But then, I don't know, it just changed. That's how it usually starts, I said. Ethan looked up at me, his eyes searching. It feels real, Grandma. Like when I'm with her, everything makes sense. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel alone. His last words were quiet, but they stayed with me. Alone. I reached across the table and placed my hand gently over his. That's a good feeling, I said. Feeling understood matters. He nodded, but his expression didn't ease. What's worrying you? I asked softly. Ethan pulled his hand back, running it through his hair. It's not just me. I frowned slightly. What do you mean? He took a deep breath. Her life is complicated. I didn't interrupt. She doesn't have it easy, he continued. Her family moves a lot. Her dad's job, it's not stable, and she's had to leave friends behind over and over again. I listened carefully, piecing it together. So she doesn't want to get too attached, I guessed. Ethan gave a small nod. She says it's easier that way, but I don't want easy. I want her. There it was, not just a crush, not just curiosity. This was something deeper. And does she feel the same? I asked. Ethan hesitated again. I think so, but she's scared. I leaned back slightly, thinking, love at that age can feel like standing on a bridge that might not hold. You want to cross it, but you're not sure if it will break beneath you. She's afraid of getting hurt, I said. Yeah, he replied, and I get it, I really do, but I don't know how to convince her that I'm not going anywhere. His voice cracked slightly on the last part. And suddenly, I saw it clearly. This wasn't just about love. This was about loyalty. About wanting to be someone who stays in a world where people often leave. You can't force someone to feel safe, I said gently. You can only show them, over time, Ethan looked at me, frustration in his eyes. But what if time isn't enough? It usually is, I replied, but it takes patience. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. I just don't want to lose her before we even start. I watched him for a moment, remembering my own past, the risks, the chances, the moments when love felt like both a gift and a gamble. It's part one. See you next part. Thanks for watching.